Welcome, everybody. I guess we're going to call to order.
This meeting is being transcribed and summarized.
And we're going to, board members will be utilizing electronic devices during the meeting to access the online agenda, and an electronic device may be used to record this meeting. Roll call.
All executive cabinet representatives are present, and all trustees are present with the exception of President Greg Teepee and Clerk Jones.
Okay, we have item 3, agenda approval. Approval of the agenda of Tuesday, June 9th. Permit reading the title only of proposed agenda items in lieu of reciting the entire text. Motion. Alice Carlson, second by Dwayne Wynn. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. We have a public hearing. We're going to have a local control and accountability plan. The public hearing will be held at this time concerning the proposed local control and accountability plan for the year ending June 30, 2027. We're open hearing at 1. And it's going. So it's you. Welcome.
Prior to the presentation, can we just say the Pledge of Allegiance really quick? Okay, everybody stand. Turn it over your heart. Ready to begin?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all yours, Dr. Wood.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Board of Trustees, family, students, staff. Looks like everybody's going off to their breaks. Having a good time. I have the pleasure of presenting the LCAP development process before the public hearing. Tonight's public hearing is to allow the superintendent to be able to hear any comments or questions regarding any kind of input with the LCAP before you get a chance to adopt it. This obviously isn't the forum for discussion, but any comments that are made during the public hearing be recorded, and then the superintendent by statute will respond in writing, and it will be posted to the website. So with that said, this year we have a strategic plan being developed, and we also have an LCAP being developed. So I thought that we'd give a quick nod to the differences between the two. A strategic plan is an overarching umbrella of the district. We have plenty of programs and funding sources and plans that are within our district that are actually not captured within the LCAP, and the strategic plan gives the opportunity to be able to give a broad view of all our programs, our goals, our values, our commitments. The strategic plan is not it is not a place that is, it's not a plan, sorry, that is required by law. It is an above and beyond communication plan for our families that the superintendent and the Lancaster School District knows very highly about, because the LCAP, let's just face it, I don't think any of you would deny, is not Saturday night's reading. Most people would barely even understand what's in it. So therefore, a strategic plan that is public friendly is something that we are in the process of developing. There's going to be great alignment. While the LCAP is a 3-year plan with annual updates, it focuses on LTFF funding, which is base funding and supplemental and concentration funds. It follows LTFF statute. It follows 8 priorities required by the state. It includes a budget and an expenditure plan for how we're going to spend that budget. And then it holds us accountable through our measures, most of it through the California dashboard, but other measures as well, local measures like iReady, the U-Truth survey, the thought exchange. All of these things we take into consideration. on whether or not we are effective at the actions that we put forth in our LCAP. So the very first page of the LCAP is the budget overview for parents. And Maria is obviously given a presentation tonight to be able to go into a little more detail with that. But this is meant to be family friendly, intentionally by the state actually. And you can see that in the LCAP, it is an expenditure plan for $289 million. We can round that to 290. And 70% of that is supplemental and concentration funds that are generated by foster, low income, and English learners. Those three student groups comprise $56 million of this LTFF fund, and we are creating actions within this plan to help tiny kiddos with that money. We also have 8 priorities by the state that are mandated by the state that we must meet within this plan, and our resources are all surrounding these 8 priorities. And you can see priority 1 meets the basic expenditures needed in order to conduct school. Priority 4, pupil achievement. Priority 8, those are pupil outcomes like social emotional learning. So we're looking at the whole child within these 8 particular priorities, and they are all considered and defined within the local control accountability. When we're developing, we have to look at our demographics, and so you can see at the time of census, we had nearly 13% multilingual learners, 7.5% of homeless, and be open up my own because there are texts. There's text in the way. 7.5% homeless, and approximately 3% are in foster care. Very striking, we see that 9 out of 10 students, about 88%, are below poverty level, and all of this needs to be considered as we decide where to put our resources. So educational partners is a big part of input for the LCAP. We gather input all year long. What is required by the state is a DLAC committee and also a PAC committee. So essentially DLAC and the Superintendent's Advisory Council is by statute, but we go above and beyond that with our committees as well. We have included students, ASB, we have all our K-8s with Dr. Marietti bringing this on, our K-8s. And our middle schools have ASBs now, and they were involved in the input for the LCAP. We also choose to have AAAC because we believe that that is part of our student population that absolutely needs representation. We have various parent and family engagement nights, as you know, for input is often given, including town hall meetings. And we have staff and educator surveys that go beyond just staff and educator surveys. We also survey all the way down to 3rd grade, our students and our staff and our families through the Youth Truth survey, which is a point scale, and also through Thought Exchange, which is an open survey where they can actually give words in complete sentences and feedback in complete sentences. So part of the process of educational partners is taking all of this input and seeing where there are trends, where there are barriers, where are their needs, and coming up with a plan that can meet these high needs. And you can see that a top community priority is social emotional support is what people are asking for. And they're also really saying we need to put a lot of our resources in the younger kids so that way the foundation is strong as they grow up. We talked about foster youth, multilingual learners, and low income generating these funds. And there was about $56 million of LCFF funds. However, we went above and beyond that We also have another 10 million going towards that as well, as Maria will likely discuss in her presentation. But we keep these three groups in mind as we decide where we're going to put our resources. We have three pillars of success. So essentially three goals. We have academics in goal 1, goal 2, equitable learning practices and positive learning environment, and goal 3, safe and supportive environment. And within these goals, we have several actions. Now, we're not going to go over all these actions here, but this slide serves as a visual indicator of how many actions are within the LCAP and where we're putting our resources towards. You'll notice on here, we also have a goal 4 and a goal 5. That's equity multiplier schools. Next year, we're going to have 7 schools that qualify for equity multiplier, which essentially the qualifications to get equity multiplier is that your school has above a 25% transient rate and also are primarily low income. So we have 7 schools that qualify for that, and they're going to get tons of money. Now, the state didn't have a place and a transparent place to put that for parents to be able to see, so they added it to the LCAP. So even though it's not LTFF and base funds, it was added to the LCAP as a place to be transparent for the time being, so that way the community and just the public in general know where those funds are going. One of the metrics that we use, and it is really the king and queen of the LCAP, is the dashboard. There is a requirement to report on student groups across the district and also at the school site that are scoring in the red. And if they're not scoring in the red, then we focus on the student groups that are of the lowest color at a particular school or within the school district. Now, these are actual scores for this year. You can see that as we've said throughout the year, that we're showing improvement. And I hear a little rumor that we might be continuing this, at least the preliminary look at it shows that we might actually be improving next year. So the dashboard results are showing a positive momentum because most people don't know this, but if you are not successful at your actions after 3 years, you're to change the action. Anything that is currently in play right now that is positive and showing improvement, keep that action within the LCAP. If it is not showing improvement, then we have to find a different action. And we've got a rewrite next year. And so our entire 3-cycle rewrite, we're actually at the end of this LCAP. This will be the last year that you approve this LCAP, and then we'll have a complete rewrite next year. Many things will roll over. You have the opportunity. So we have really honed in with principals and teachers what it takes to move to the right on that 5x5 California dashboard. These are the requirements in order to be considered increased. The CDE recognizes that if we meet these goals on each one of the 5 dashboard indicators, it will give us credit for making significant improvement. Within our SIPSAs, our school, we are asking for at least this, and when able, more. Because we all know that there are certain grade levels, there are certain teacher teams, there are certain schools that can produce even more than bare minimum. And so our principals are really determining what their goals will be, what their actionable goal will be, their measurable goal. All these things have been taken into consideration, and our goals here, our measurable goals here is what's going to hold us accountable to knowing whether or not we're effective as to where we're putting our resources within the LCAP. It doesn't make sense as part of our fiscal stewardship our superintendent has really honed in on knowing where the money's going and whether or not it's effective. Because these are public funds, and a gift of public funds needs to be used in the best way possible to get the best student outcomes out there. And we can only do that when we have plans that are intentional and targeted and measurable. And that's what we've done in our school plans. Our school plans are very detailed this year. And that's what we've done in the LCAP. So at this point, we're going to present to you at the next board meeting a draft for adoption. This is our final place where anyone could give some input. We present that final adoption plan. And I do want to note too that LACO does technical assistance between the time of your adoption all the way until August 15th. So they're looking at it like to ensure that everything micro adjustments. But for me, is there any questions for me before we go into?
Sorry,
Yes,
in your very first slide,
yes.
you can go back to it.
The one where we're comparing the strategic plan.
This one,
This one.
on the 3-year plan, the end of 3 years, you say this is the final year of this current one.
That's correct. And then we will write a big one for 3 years next
Will there be the results? How we manage first 3 years?
year. Absolutely.
So we'll be able to see, other than the dashboard, I know the dashboard's most important. Is there any other telling results we'll see?
Absolutely. In fact, in the version that you have right now, and the version that you're going to get for the next board meeting, under each goal, there is a prompt. How effective are we?
Okay,
So you can go through and you can read the effectiveness statements. And I want you to know as you're reading that, we are considered effective if we're proficient. If we are not exactly proficient, we can be partially effective. And so if we're seeing improvement and you see something that says partially effective, it's because we are making progress towards proficiency. But every single one of our goals has a prompt that has every single action and the metrics, not only how we did on the dashboard, as you said, but also what people have to say on the thought exchange and what their scores were on the YouTube. So there is a lot of community input in this LCAP that you will see this year.
And one other thing is if you look at the our 3-year strategic plan that just ended, which is aligned to our LCAP, it has specific goals that we've accomplished over the course of 3 years. For example, implementing breakfast in the classroom, which we fully implemented, implementing learning centers across our district, which we fully implemented. You can go through each one of those goals and kind of check the box of all the things that we said we were going to do and that we did. And we have a new 4-year plan because this plan has 1 more year and 3 years after that. So we will be presenting a new I'll be presenting a new 4-year plan to the board in July.
Yes, and the idea of the 4-year strategic plan is so that way it can be on the same cycle as the LCAP. The state had other thoughts when they set the cycle for the LCAP. So we can be completely aligned.
Yep, that means- Right. Yes. Thank you so much for your report. It's very, very good.
Thank you.
And yes, we'll close the hearing 5:19. We will Have a public hearing budget. Public hearing will be held at this time concerning the proposed budget for the year ending on June 30, 2027. We'll open the hearing at 5. She's already up there.
Good evening, board members, cabinet, public. Blessed and happy to present to you the 26-27 budget hearing. Okay, so we'll go over the agenda. The agenda covers from the board priorities all the way to questions and answers. You have the list, your presentation, printed presentation. Sorry. Oh, there you go. The board priorities for the Lancaster School District are to build high-quality educational programs that meet the unique needs and interests of all students, to provide all staff and students access to tools, resources, and facilities needed to educate, operate, and excel in the 21st century, recruit and retain highly qualified personnel, provide a safe and secure environment for students and staff, provide and promote quality professional development opportunities for all staff, while maintaining fiscal positive certification and fiscal solvency. Cost of living, COLA. These numbers are based on the May revision to the governor's budget for the fiscal year 26-27. We learned that we have a super COLA, which it's composed by the statutory COLA of 2.87% plus a one-time augmentation of 1.44% equals 4.31%. Our budget for next fiscal year is built using that COLA, plus of living adjustment. And then the 2 subsequent years are projections, projected to be at 3.30 and 3.49. The changes in COLA after May revision. This is a new slide that I wanted to incorporate because there's been a lot saying of the COLA might change. And so what I did is I went back and I pulled the 4 last fiscal years with a comparison of the May revision COLA and the final budget COLA. As you can see, there's no changes. And this is extracted from the CDE, California Department of Education. Now, the cost of living versus the cost price index. The cost price index is to measure the inflation, and the cost of living is to mitigate that inflation. The reason why I have chosen this slide is because I wanted to show you why is it that we have a super COLA. The reason why we have a super COLA is to offset the inflation. As you can see, 25-26, this fiscal year that we're closing, our COLA was 2.30 and the CPI was 3.25. So we have an inflation because the gap is a negative figure of 0.95%. So the 26-27, the governor says we're going to have a super COLA to offset the CPI, and now it's giving us a positive gap. And that reflects or splash into the following subsequent to these figures. As you can see, 27, 28, and 28, 29, the gap also is positive. And those are projections. The 25-26 ADA calculation, we've been having these 2 options, the 3-year average or the traditional calculation. The 3-year average, it's for all past 3 years. You do an average and calculate how much ADA you can be funded on. And the traditional ADA calculation, which is this fiscal year and last fiscal year, whichever is the greater. This was created because of COVID, because we didn't have the students in the school sites. Now we're seeing that gap between the 3-year average and the traditional close. You can see it's only 1 ADA difference. So I'm thinking that this process will go back to the traditional. The historical average daily attendance for 23-24, 12,461, and it goes all the way to the 26-27 at 12,590, which is only 1 student versus last year. The 26-27 revenues, everything is in millions. Dr. Woods told you it's $289.69 million. The LCFF, which is the local control formula, revenues represent 71%. The LCFF base is $147.32 million. The supplemental and concentration is $56.73 million. The federal, $15.16 million. The state, $49.12 million. The local, $21.36 million. The state, it continues to be high because we receive every fiscal year $25 million for ELO, and that's ongoing. And the local is also high because we receive through CELPA the special ed revenue. Now the 26-27 expenditures are $305.87 million. Budgeting for certificated salaries, $103.33 million. For classified salaries, $55.96 million. And for employee benefits for both buckets, $64.95 million. Personal cost ratio is 73%. The reason why we're not back to the 85 or 87% is because we are liquidating prior year revenues for the ELO and the community grants and other grants. We also have the books and supplies at $26.4 million, services at $48.72 million, capital outlay $4.21 million, and outgo $2.3 million. So we have, as you can see, we have higher expenditures than revenue. That translates into a deficit spending. And we all know it's because we're liquidating revenues from prior years. And the STIRS and PERS changes, as we know, the STIRS have been plateaued at 19.10. The reason why is because it takes voters' action to make changes. Now, on the other hand, we're looking to see the alligator effect on the PERS, and that's because of the market, because this is correlated to the market rate. Now, this is my favorite one. The multi-year projection is also $1 million. The 26-27, the budget that I'm presenting, the revenues are 289.69, as we saw. The expenditures 305.87. Out of those 305.87, 224.24 are salaries and benefits, and all other expenditures are 81.63. We begin the year at $95.49 million, and with a decrease of $16.18 million, which is the deficit spending, we end the first year with an ending fund balance of $79.31 million, of which $51.13 million is restricted. Then we have the assignment that you approved last board meeting. We end with a reserve of 4.72%, which equates to $14.43 million after the assignment. On the middle year, the revenue is 292.07. The difference between the first year and the second year revenue is only the COLA. And then we have the expenditures of 305.41. As you can see, all other expenditures on the middle year are being reduced, and that's because we're liquidating the fund. The increase in salaries is the second column. The beginning balance translates from the prior year ending fund balance, so it's 79.31. We have a deficit spending that we're controlling as we liquidate the funds, 13.33. Out of that ending fund balance, the restricted is 44.64. You see how we went from 51.13 to 44.64 on the restricted funds. So we're liquidating year by year. And then we have the assignment. We end with $15.09 million as a reserve for economic uncertainty, and equates to 4.94%. Then the third year out, this is a projection as well. The revenues also, we applied COLA to 97.60. The expenditures, we also applied from the salaries and benefits, the second column, and we'll continue to control the expenditures, all other expenditures. The beginning fund balance translates from the prior year ending fund balance. Our deficit spending is decreasing as we go on next fiscal years. The ending fund balance now is 54.12, which 36.82 is restricted. See how the restricted is going down, down, down. Okay, and then we have the reserve for economic uncertainties of $12.30 million, which is equivalent to 3.97%. The positive certification, the district will meet 3% state required reserve all 3 years. Assumptions. To maintain fiscal solvency and monitor deficit spending, the district prioritizes and allocates resources effectively to support all goals while maintaining fiscal responsibility and building fiscal sustainability. The district is committed to implementing expenditure reduction and or revenue enhancement to eliminate the Lancaster District instructional budget deficit and maintaining financial solvency in the fiscal year 26-27 and the two subsequent years. A review of all programs, services, supplies, obligations, and costs will also take place, and is actually taking place, to identify those most beneficial to our students before filing the first injury. Staffing analysis, review position control and staffing levels for management, classified and certificated staffing, including teacher ratios to implement cost reductions and better efficiencies district-wide. What is not included in our multi-year projection is the impact of negotiations. We have not started negotiations for this fiscal year, and also the state budget adoption. Supplemental and concentration requirements provide more services, achieve more, track carryover. The district must have evidence that the targeted goals for foster youth, English learners, homeless, and low SES students were clearly identified in the LCAP, which we have. We worked together with Dr. Wood for that. Appropriate funding was allocated and the expenditures improved students' learning outcome. We have metrics for that. The unduplicated percentage for our district today is 88.61%. The unduplicated are English for multilingual learners, low income, and foster youth. The 26-27 tentative general fund LCAP budget by goal number 1 for academics, $185.67 million. Goal number 2, equitable learning practices and positive learning environments, $30.86 million. Goal number 3, safe and supportive environment, $71.44 million. Goal number 4, equity multiplier for engagement, school culture, $12.60 million. Goal number 5, equity multiplier for academic achievement, $5.74 million. The mission of the Lancaster School District is to provide a relevant, high-quality education with an inclusive and culturally respectful environment, preparing all students for personal and professional success. And I allocate the budget always with that in mind. Any questions?
I have one question, Marie. Thank you very much for the presentation. We had heard at a meeting that perhaps the super COLA may have restrictions to the district. Is that true?
Well, that was not said by the governor. I actually watched the governor's budget, School Services of California budget, and capital budget. And the governor didn't say that. What the governor said, and if you can watch it on YouTube, is that he's giving the super COLA, and he's also extending the maternity leave for the staff, for the teachers, and for the staff. So what I did, as you can see on this slide, which is the multi-year projection, I have an employee future medical leave for $2 million assignment for every fiscal year. In case that is removed, our district will be saved, because then we can remove the assignment.
Sky. Maria, another great report. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Guess with that, we will close the hearing. At this point, I guess we're going to do the addressing the board. Okay. Individuals who wish to address the board may complete a speaker card and present it. The supporting document to the superintendent, assistant, or other district personnel prior to the start of the meeting. Personnel information such as student, parent, guardian's name, address, phone number, date of birth, email address, or other directory information as defined in Education Code 4961 may be excluded from the minutes of the meeting by submitting a written request to the superintendent. Board president shall recognize individuals who wish to speak. Individuals wishing to present testimony to the board concerning specific items on the agenda may do so once that item has been moved, seconded, and is on the floor for discussion. Time limits of 3 minutes per person, 20 minutes per item shall be allowed. Board members may ask questions for clarification purposes, wherever no action may be taken and no discussion may take place on an item not on the posted agenda. Comments from the audience?
We have a speaker card. Do you know what?
Hey, good evening. I'm hoping that the board will indulge me to pivot I did fill out a speaker card. I was going to read a statement from a community member who is related to Kay Colwell, who's of course our teacher who has been missing for the last couple of weeks. I was initially planning to read that, but after further review, I think that it would be best for me just to have a private conversation with district officials to maybe follow up with family rather than to read that statement here. I also I would like to say that TAL as a membership, of course, we are very concerned about the whereabouts of this teacher. We want to do everything that we can to support law enforcement in this active investigation. Never want to inadvertently say something in a public forum that would in any way undermine that investigation. So that's where I will leave it, and I will reach out to whomever to follow up. And then if you would also indulge me, I would like to make a brief statement on behalf of the town. So thank you, Maria, for your budget presentation. I just wanted to talk about Super Cola because I did spend quite a bit of time this spring lobbying in Sacramento. And one of our big accomplishments was to get pregnancy leave into the budget. That has been ongoing objective for the last 5 years. One of the things that I will say is that every legislator that I visited, both Republican and Democrat, all made comments to the effect that they didn't realize that we didn't have that. They couldn't imagine that there was a situation where a woman who was out for pregnancy leave had to pay for their own substitute. And so we had to do some educating to explain that. And so I just sort of wanted to say that publicly, that we're very happy to be able to deliver that for our people. And I know that for Coca-Cola was to make sure that that was funded. So anyway, also, I just hope everybody is going to have an amazing summer and that we are all coming back refreshed and ready to start the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett, can you comment?
Or just that our thoughts are with family UK. We're operating 100% with investigation.
Okay. We don't have any public input on closed session agenda item. Closed session item include personnel matters. With respect to every item on this discussed in closed session, to government code section 54957. Superintendent evaluation. We did the pledge.
Yes, the only thing we would say is that we are going to go to closed session for my evaluation, and you're going to go to closed session for my evaluation. And then we are going to come back and close the meeting, but it will not be broadcast.
Okay.
Just wanted to.
Right now, we're going to recess to a closed session at 5:38. Thank you guys for coming.